The chance of the 2022 flood occurring back in the 60s, 70s, 80s or 90s was about 2%.
Yep.
Each year, that's the risk each year, a 2% chance. Now, because of the warming already, today, it's about 50% more likely.
Yep.
By 2020, 30, it'll be about 60% more likely, and depending on what CO2 emission scenarios we end up on, it could end up at 2060 at 2 times more likely, and 2090 it could end up as bad as 3 times. That's based on the latest research that's about to be rolled out as national practice.
We did a survey back in 2021 more broadly across the Melbourne catchment and found that only about 19% of people who are exposed to flood risk even knew they were exposed. So herein lies our challenge. And that's despite previous decades of effort by Melbourne Water, the Vic SES, local government to drive an increase in that awareness. So that, I guess, sets the scene for what we need to do. So since the October 22 event, so we ran a campaign under the leadership of the SES called Know Your Flood Risk, which started in August last year. That involved letterbox drops to 3,000 residents who at the time were understood to be impacted by that risk. That included door knocking, that included community drop-in sessions, it included a social media campaign to really drive that increased awareness. So that's the sort of the hook to get people in.
In a small flood, a small number of people or on one catchment get flooded. They have to find alternative accommodation. They have to find builders. When you have a really larger flood event over a really large area, all of these social problems compound. People can't get to school. People can't get to work. People can't get tradesmen. Costs of everything go through the roof. Infrastructure, and mental health. And these things are never factored into the costing.
This model tells us the likely area and height of waters in a 1% likelihood event as of 2024. So overall, there's an increase in land subject to flooding by approximately 5%. We've also produced a model that encompasses climate change and provides areas and heights projected out to the year 2100. The 2100 model shows a more significant 42% increase in the land area that we project would be subject to flooding in 70 years' time. The full updated Maribyrnong flood model and supporting information is available on the Melbourne Water website and has been provided to the committee.
What's going to trigger changes to the LSIO, the flooding overlays, and the planning system?
Yep.
And which maps will be used to inform the new overlays?
Yep.
When will that happen and how long will it take?
So specifically with the planning system, so the model that goes in the planning system is a 2100 model, because that is the thing that's used to make decisions for decades to come for assets that will be constructed or be around, potentially in that time. So that goes
following
into...
along on the maps, that's the orange shading.
That's the orange, exactly. What we're doing at the moment is preparing what we call a planning scheme amendment request. So we're putting all the documentation together for that now. We then submit that through to the relevant planning authority, and that would go through our process to get implemented into the planning scheme. Now, we will have that submission or that application made within the next couple of months. How long that takes, it's a process that requires appropriately public input and consideration of that. So it's a little bit hard to put an exact time on how long that can take.